right now, most job applications are starting to look a little identical. Same AI written resumes, same buzzwords, same company jargon that the hiring manager has no idea what they're even talking about, and same cover letters that could honestly start to belong to anyone who wants that job. And because of that, being quote unquote qualified is no longer enough because everyone looks qualified on paper. So the real question becomes, how do you stand out when everyone looks the same? Welcome or welcome back to Find Your Power podcast. I am your host, Avery Jane. And before we really get into today's episode, I just want to say, first off, yes, I'm wearing sunglasses on my head inside. And if you're watching the video, you may be wondering why. But if you saw the thumbnail on YouTube, then you'll know why. And secondly, I just want to say how much I appreciate you guys' feedback and everything recently. I love getting to read all of you guys' comments and feedback and everything. It really does mean a lot to me because honestly, sometimes I feel like no one's watching these. And I think that I mentioned that last episode. But whenever I get a comment or likes or anything, like, it's not that I necessarily need the validation. Obviously, I've been doing this for 8 months now, and I'm still where I'm at. But at the end of the day, it does feel nice to know that people are listening. It's not just me dumping all of my thoughts and what could just go in my journal onto the internet. So, with that being said, today I do want to talk about how to be different when applying to jobs. Because, I mean, yeah, like I said, everyone's using AI now to write resumes. And yes, I know it's really not that bad. I've done it. I've definitely had AI help me write my resume. I think that it's honestly like one of those things where you feel like behind if you're not getting AI to help you. The issue comes down to when AI maybe doesn't have enough information on you and who you are and your specific experience. So you give it, some information about yourself, you give it some of your experience, and you say, like, help me write a resume. And then it's going to give you, like, a bunch of, like, weird jargon that maybe you know, but what if the hiring manager that doesn't know the company that you worked for, like, they might not know any of this jargon, all these little filler words. It just comes to the point where a lot of it is overlooked because a lot of it is filler words and stuff when AI writes resumes. So at the beginning of pretty much every episode, I do like to explain why I decided this topic today and what kind of inspired it, because there always seems to be something that made me think of this topic, of these topics. So today's reasoning, as a podcaster myself, I do love listening to podcasts. And I think I've said that a few times. Obviously, a lot of us know Jay Shetty's podcast, On Purpose. I've heard of it for so long, and I think it's so funny that I had never actually listened to it before. I don't think I'd ever actually listened to any episode from that podcast before. And I think it's been around for a while. And as someone who's been listening to podcasts since, like, I don't know, 2019, 2020, I feel like it was time, it was time that I listened to one of those. So I did. And I got attached. I think it was like 2 days ago I started listening to one of them, and I've listened to like 3 full podcasts by now. And by the way, his podcasts are their interviews, if you're unfamiliar, but they do last at least an hour each. About the ones I listened to were like an hour and a half each. So just by saying that, this episode was inspired by one of those interviews that he did. Yeah, it was the one with Layla Hormozi. I mentioned a lot of things in today's episode that they mentioned on their podcast, but of course, mine is a little bit shorter than an hour and a half long. So I'm kind of giving you the brief takeaways that I took from it, and also, of course, my own perspectives. But of course, if you guys want to go check out that one, I mean, by all means, it was a really good episode. So the first thing diving in that I want to talk about is kind of, the problem I just mentioned with everyone starting to sound identical. It's just because, like I said, AI is being used to write all of these things, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it gets to be a little repetitive. So people are using AI to write resumes, write cover letters, generate interview answers, and even draft emails. And the features that have been placed by whomever on every platform where it's like, oh, use AI to, write this for you. It's even on like Apple iMessages now where it like AI summarizes your text message that you received. So like it's very hard to avoid it at this point. And I have a whole nother episode on AI taking over if you guys want to go look at that one. But so I'm not diving too much into AI itself today, but I am just mentioning it because it's a big part of this. So it's not inherently bad all the time, but at the same time, it can create a little bit of a problem when it comes to hiring managers seeing and reading the same language and diction over and over and over and over again. And I say that because if you listening to this have never been in a position of hiring manager before, I will just say I have never been a hiring manager for a large company where I had to read a bunch of resumes, but I know that my dad, which has been on this podcast, if you guys listen to this podcast, you probably heard him. He has been in the position of hiring manager for certain positions, and that consisted of going through many, many resumes a day. And he's even said to me, resume reading, when it comes down to it, becomes a quick skim. Becomes a very quick skim when you're reading multiple resumes a day and trying to pick out the best few. It becomes a very quick, like, do, yes or no. And that can be kind of hard to hear, especially when we like put so much time into making them. And also, like, it's a lot of our it's literally putting our entire like it sometimes feels like putting our ego out on paper, and but not in like a egotistical way, but more of like a trying to in more of just like this is what I can do kind of way, and get that rejected can not feel good sometimes. So we want to use AI to make it sound like perfect or sound better, and the truth is that that's not necessarily what hiring managers want all the time. They don't just want something that looks perfect, because if it's perfect, then it's AI. And hopefully, they don't want to hire AI if they're going through resumes. So they want to hire a person. So if everyone's using the same tools to sound impressive, then sounding impressive is no longer what makes you stand out. So, I would like to introduce this idea of shifting from being qualified or showing yourself as qualified when you're applying to jobs to being memorable. This is because most people, when applying to jobs, they try to prove the very common things that you prove. Like you're qualified, you have experience, and you meet the requirements that the job requires. But the thing is that, like I said, if there's so many applications nowadays, everyone's going to have those things pretty much. Everyone that's applying, at least half of them probably will. And say there's a pile of 200 resumes, if half of them are meeting all of those expectations, that's only filtering out 100. You still got 100 resumes to filter through and figure out, where can I find the best in these. So the people nowadays, and even in the past as well, probably, but I'm just speaking for nowadays. Nowadays, especially, the people who are actually standing out are thinking things like, how do I make them remember me? How do I feel like a person and not just like a template of a resume? And how do I show alignment in the company and in the environment and in the culture of the company and not just the ability to, go through the actions of performing the job that's needed. And when you think about these questions in your application or in your resume or whatever you may be doing in your interview, even when you think about these questions, these are the ones that are going to get you further and going to get you more memorable. And when hiring managers see those in that pile of 100 resumes left, if they see things like, wow, this person sounds like they would really align with the culture of our company because XYZ, that is when you are going to be remembered and you're going to be picked out and filtered out from that pile. And I know it's not nice to think of ourselves as like in a pile of people to pick against and to compete against. But unfortunately, that is the reality of corporate America. So that's where we are. So, another tip on standing out is to do deeper research than everyone else. And I've definitely said this in a past podcast, and I'm sure by this point you've heard it like a bajillion times from other people as well, to do your research about the company. Do your research before you get on the interview. Bring up little aspects about the company that you're applying to show them that you know a lot. And that's great. I did that. Of course. I did that for the job that I have right now. I knew it was a location and a business that I really wanted to work with. So I looked up, some of their core values and I brought them up during the interview. So it's little things like that that are definitely important to do. But I think when a lot of people do it, especially if they are applying to many different places, like sending out just a bunch of different applications, sending out their resume to a bunch of different places, like if they get an interview, they'll probably do a little more work. But like maybe for the cover letter and stuff, they're like, or maybe even for the interview, if they have a bunch of interviews, they might just skim the company website and be like, okay, yeah, I think I get it. Or like copy keywords from the job description onto the cover letter or onto the resume. Honestly, I think I might have done this before too. Like, the thing is that it's not that uncommon, and it may seem like, oh my gosh, like I'm being so smart here, copying and pasting these little descriptions. Like, I'm totally gonna sound like just what they're looking for. Unfortunately, the other 199 resumes did the exact same thing that are in this pile of 200 that I'm still talking about. So, we do need to be a little bit unconventional here. And by that I mean maybe understand the company's mission very deeply. Like I said earlier, their core values. Maybe think about either their core values or maybe like their mission. Like they have a mission purpose and it's somewhere hidden on their website, or maybe it's the title, I don't know, but it's on there somewhere probably. And I bet you that if you use that and be like, my values and my life align with this, of course, we don't want to be inauthentic. I'd say this definitely works best with a company that you are very serious about, or company that you've been really actually looking into for a while. Another one could be like looking at recent projects or culture or tone in the website or in their pictures or in their social media. Even looking at things like that can really stand out, and finding what actually matters to the company specifically. Like, yeah, maybe they said in the job description that they wanted somebody reliable and they wanted somebody who can manage their time very well, has good time management skills, yada, 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 right? That's what every company wants. Find what they want specifically. Like, maybe they specifically want someone, if it's like, I don't know, engineering company, and they specifically want someone that specializes in this specific niche of engineering. I'm not really familiar with engineering so much, but you get what I'm saying. Then once you figure out that really specific niche thing that they are looking for, then you can connect it back to yourself in a real way, not in a fake way. Most of the time, you should do it in a real way. Like saying that you're passionate about it, or maybe finding something in their business or in their company that really speaks to you on like a personal soul kind of level, like something you actually incorporate into your day-to-day life or into your values as a person or your morals, something like that, connect that to who you are, and they're going to really see that that's really going to make you stand out. And you could say like not just that you're passionate, but maybe adding like a focus that they have and how you have experienced it in your own life. So something important here to understand is that you're not just the best way to do it is that to not just apply to the job, no, but to understand the world that the company is building and ask yourself if you actually want to be a part of that world or that culture or that environment. Because if you find that it doesn't really align with you, then probably don't apply to that job or don't get into that job or don't go into that interview or whatnot. Because you do want to be fully aligned at the end of the day. Like maybe the pay looks great and the hours look good, but at the end of the day, it's not going to make you truly happy or comfortable or fulfilled if the environment and the culture of the company and the workplace is not what aligns with you and who you are. The next step is to make your application feel more human or human again if you kind of lost that, which a lot of us have from AI, and that's okay. We're getting it back, right? We're getting it back. This is where you bring in your unconventional ideas. You can think of other ways to submit your application potentially. And this is something I specifically took away from the Jay Shetty podcast. You want to, while everyone else is submitting, PDFs of their resume, bullet points of their qualifications, all that stuff, think about what else could you do that makes you different and stand out. So this could be a short video introduction instead of a cover letter. Or, like mentioned in the podcast, Layla said that she got a voice note from this guy applying in an email. And she got like two voice notes instead of a resume. And in the voice notes, it was basically his application, and she said it just spoke to her right away, and she ended up hiring him because it was so much different than the regular resume with bullet points and cover letter and yada yada. And also I think that just it shows personality, and it shows that you might be like a fun and exciting person to be around and to have in the company and in the company's environment as well. And of course, judge this with the company. I will leave all of those judgments up to you guys. But when it comes to like professionalism, definitely judge that with the company. If it's like a super strict corporate company, maybe don't lean this way so much, but that's what I'm saying is you can kind of judge that. And or if it is one of those super corporate professional type of companies and you still want to stand out, maybe making like a simple personal website instead of a traditional resume could really go a long way in tailoring that personal website to being like a resume, and maybe including some key statistics that you have accomplished, some key qualifications that you could bring, and things like that. Also, if you're making some kind of portfolio for your application or for your job, think try to make it in a way that shows more of how you think and not just your experience. More of who you are and how you think as a person and not just what you've done. So anything that can send the message of why me or why you, that sounds more like a conversation and not just like you're following a script or a template. By this I mean you do want to show personality. Of course, stay professional, but we don't always need to be just professional. We can show a little personality, and sometimes that really makes us stand out most of the time. When everyone sounds really professional, no one's going to stand out. And of course, that's a lot of times is the goal, be and sound very professional. But everybody's professional nowadays with AI. It's important to let your personality show and how you communicate. And also Don't strip away your own voice to sound like a robot or like AI, like I keep saying, because they don't want perfect. Most companies don't want perfect, 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 because then they would literally just hire AI. They would just buy an AI software or something like that. They want a person with personality they can connect with, they can shoot ideas off of, they can really inspire or let them inspire each other. They want humans. They want people. So at the end of the day, be a person, be yourself, be human, and write like a human if you're writing a resume or an email, not like a corporate LinkedIn post, Or something to really remember from this is that professionalism gets you considered for the job, but personality gets you remembered for the job. It's really significant that at this point, your resume is not the only thing that matters anymore. Of course, yeah, your resume matters to an extent. You need some qualifications, you need some experience, you need to follow the requirements of the job, but it's not the whole picture anymore at all. People stand out through follow up emails and interview presence and how they communicate before the interview and also how intentional they are with every interaction. So if the interactions or the emails that you're sending are very copy paste, you're just sending the same follow up. Hey, I sent you. Hey, I just applied to your job application. Please consider me. Thank you for your time. I fear yes, that will get you somewhere, maybe. But honestly, like that's so repetitive now. And I'm saying all this because I've done all of these things. Like I've literally done all these. I went on like a huge applying to jobs splurge about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, to and I ended up landing one of the jobs I still have today as it was just a server job. It was trying to get a job in the service industry and with very little experience. And it doesn't seem like such a crazy kind of job to try to get. The service industry seems to always be hiring, but a lot of places don't want to hire a server with no server experience. So usually they'll try to like start you as a host or whatever, or busser or a cook or something like that. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to settle. I wanted to be a server. I wanted to be a waitress. And I wanted this super long splurge of applying to a bunch of places, mostly online, like LinkedIn, on Indeed, on whatever it was, probably everything, and just like submitting resume after resume, application after cover letter, after everything. And yeah, at the end of the day, it was literally copy paste AI, this, that. And, you know, a message saying, hey, I just applied, thank you, yada, yada. Like, it was very copy paste. I ended up landing the job because I walked in. I walked into their office and I said, "Hey, I applied or hey, here's my paper copy of my resume." And they were like, "Oh, perfect. We actually are hiring right now." So I got the interview then and there. With that being said, that's not to say that you cannot land a job online with through applying only online. I That's how I landed the other job I have right now. I applied only online through for that job and I ended up getting it. So it's not to say that you have to walk into the place, especially if it's like an online job. You can't really do that anyways. But this is just to say that at the end of the day, even if it's like some kind of job you think is pretty simple to get, like I don't know, like a service industry job like that, people still care about personality. They care to see how you present yourself as well, and they want to see the confidence there. I couldn't be a server if I didn't know how to talk to people. That's half the job. It's important not only to just say copy paste the same kind of qualifications, but at the end of the day, you got to present yourself the way that you want the job. And you have to show them that you are the person that they're looking for and show them why. Show them why you would match the energy so well and why you'd make such a good employee there, but not just telling them, but showing them. Showing them with your confidence and the way that you tell them is a big part of it as well. And just the way that you communicate. So this doesn't even have to be something huge every time. This can even just mean, referencing something very specific about the company in an email or a follow up email that you send. Or, definitely asking thoughtful questions in interviews. I did an entire episode about the interview process. So you can go check that one out. But yes, that's a very big one. And showing curiosity, actual curiosity, instead of rehearsed questions and answers. So if they just like answered a question during the interview, if they're like explaining stuff to you and then they answer one of the questions that you thought, oh, I'm going to ask that, don't ask it again. Don't ask it again. Ask the same question that they just answered like 5 minutes ago in the interview because you thought in your head, I need to answer this. Actively listen. Actively listen to what they're saying. And then ask questions that you still don't have answered at the end. You need to be intentional and not just performative. And okay, guys, I want to be clear. I'm not telling you to go be like super quirky and super excited and just like super different and alternative and just because you want to be different. Don't like try to do all that. I'm not telling you need to do all that. I'm just saying be intentional about why you're choosing that company and show them that you are intentional about it as well. Actually think to yourself, why am I choosing this company? And why does this role actually matter to me? And what do I genuinely bring this company as well that isn't just generic that they could find in anyone else? That's a really big one. That is such a big one. And it's funny because I'm rethinking it right now and I'm like, wow. That's such a good question to ask because it truthfully that is going to give you your answer and your best application right there. Answering the question to yourself and then to the hiring manager. What do I genuinely bring to this company that is different from what everyone else can bring and isn't just generic? That's the biggest thing right there. Because honestly, at the end of the day, these people are smart. These people hiring you are smart, and they're going to be able to read through any fake or falseness that you're bringing. And they can feel when someone is real versus when it's just kind of like standing out for attention. Starting to wrap up the episode today, I just want you guys to take away the fact that you don't need to be the loudest applicant, or you don't need to be the most professional applicant, or you don't need to be the most sounding great on paper applicant. Because most of the time, that's not all that they want. The company wants someone that's the most clear and intentional and human sounding person. The person with the most matched personality with the environment and the culture that the company is trying to build. Because in a big world of everyone trying to optimize for perfect applications, the people who stand out are the ones who feel real. And the people that are real with themselves and real on the interview are the ones that are going to be remembered. And this also goes to say that maybe you do show up to an interview of a company that you really want the job for. And maybe you do decide to completely be yourself. And yes, while acting professional, you are giving your personality into the interview and you're trying to, show that you care. At the end of the day, you gave them what you will give them in the long term if you were to be with that company. If you're showing who you are and you're showing your personality, at the end of the day, you're literally showing them what you're going to bring to the table. And maybe they don't like it. And sometimes that happens. And maybe we still get rejected even when we show our true selves and we show our personalities and we try to be remembered. And that sometimes happens, but you know what? That's okay. Because if you really show your true personality and you show who you are and they don't like it and they don't accept it and you don't get the job, well, then probably you wouldn't have enjoyed it there either. And you probably weren't meant to be there because if you would have been there, if they would have ended up accepting you and they didn't like your personality, then you're probably not going to like their personality either. You're probably not going to enjoy working there either with that environment. So just act yourself, be yourself. Think of new ways to stand out a little bit. And don't just try to get noticed, but try to be someone worth remembering. That does conclude today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening today. Tune in every Thursday to listen or watch on YouTube or Spotify. And for audio only, I am on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and Audible. Make sure to check out the Instagram or the TikTok at findyourpower_podcast. And thank you guys so much again for leaving all of the comments and feedback and support and reviews that you do, because it truly does mean a lot, and it does actually keep me going on this podcast. Sometimes it's not so easy, to sit down and film and edit and do all the stuff. It really does remind me why I started this in the first place. And then I will keep continuing the episode. Being said, if you guys do enjoy watching and listening the podcast, please send it to a friend, a family member, a loved one that you think might like the podcast, enjoy it, or, even just resonate with it a little bit, because it really helps the podcast grow and they may thank you later for it. Also, please rate the podcast 5 stars or follow on Apple and Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and all that fun stuff. Thank you guys again. Lastly, if you'd like to be featured for an interview, I know I haven't had one in a little while now. Honestly, I kind of just been vibing, making them on my own. And I don't know, I would like to hear if you guys enjoy the ones more just me yapping, or do we like the ones with a guest? Please comment your opinion. Honestly, I can go either way. But if you would like to be featured for an interview or a conversation on the podcast, please do send me an email at the email linked in the podcast description section, or you can shoot me a DM on the Instagram. I will talk to you guys again soon, and don't forget, we will find your power.